Hey everybody, I'm Nate Savage, the Savage 5050. I'm here with Latoya Scott, the founder of FTN Fashion Week. That's the name of your business, right?
Yeah, no, the name of my actual business is Final Touch Models,
Hmm.
and FTM stands for Final Touch Models. And so we created the event Final Touch Models Fashion Week.
Okay, and right now you're located in an island, right, in Japan.
Yes, Okinawa, Japan.
What's it like
Mhm.
out there?
It's different.
Yeah,
And it's definitely different. It's a 13-hour time difference. So, and I still do business in the United States. So
hmm,
I'm typically up at 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. every day to catch the evening time of the States, and then late at night to catch the morning time of the States. So
yeah.
my,
Right
my
now it's
day,
early in the morning for you.
yes, it's 8 a.m. on Sunday.
Wow. Oh, so you're actually ahead. I'm thinking
Yes.
you're behind. You're actually,
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
You're in the future.
Yeah. Yes.
So what is like living out there, like the politics of everything with like COVID, we like shut down everything. Like what was COVID for y'all like?
So I was actually in the States when COVID first hit,
Hmm.
living on the military base. So it wasn't as bad for me and the kids. And my husband was actually deployed during the time. So he was stuck on a ship. Um, but right now, we're actually on state of emergency. So we never really lifted the state of emergency here on the
Wow.
island. Yeah.
So you guys still got to wear like a mask everywhere you go?
Yeah.
That sucks, right?
I mean, it is
What
what it is. I mean, I'm a germaphobe anyway, so me putting on a mask, so somebody else, when they talking to me, spit not flying on me, that's what I think about. But I mean, I don't like wearing a mask. I mean, I don't like wearing a mask because it breaks my face out. Like, I just don't like having stuff on my face.
yeah, and the mask to me, it seems like it has more germs on it than just not having one on. I think it's more
It
problematic.
definitely does. It definitely does. I guess I guess it's up to the person at hand. I know personally me, I have about like 25 masks to play around with,
Yeah.
just because I treat it like a shirt. So I normally switch them out every day. But even with that, I know both me and my children skin can be sensitive to certain
Hmm.
detergents, and what might not bother you on your body might not necessarily be the case for putting that directly on your face. So it's definitely been a challenge, but I wouldn't really, I'm not, my number one complaint is definitely not the mask. Out here, they definitely try to use it as a bargaining chip for people to get the vaccine. So
Oh
to
yeah,
me,
they trying to do that here too. They're trying. I
oh,
don't know if it's gonna work. I hope it don't.
yeah. So out here, it was you get the vaccine, you don't have to wear the mask. And to me, it's like
But out
that
here
just
now they're saying if you even if you
candy.
get the vaccine, you still got to wear a mask.
Yeah, now they're saying that. So now all the people that got the vaccine and not wear the mask is like, now you still have to wear the mask. So it's pointless. So yeah,
Is it
that's
a
the only
lot of
thing I say.
is a lot of Americans out there or like what?
It's a great mixture. It's a great mixture of Americans out here, yeah. Because of the war, Americans never left here after the war.
Yeah.
So Um, and then the tension out here is not as bad as I guess it was years ago, as far as how they looked at Americans.
Hmm.
Um, and so I guess that is a good thing. Um,
But you're
but
not really getting a full Japan experience. You're like in an island in Japan, right?
yes, we're actually on Okinawa. So Okinawa is pretty much like Japan's Hawaii.
Right.
So there are a lot of natives still here on this island, and you get Okinawa is like a different experience from mainland Japan in itself, because it's different cultures, different dialects, just yeah, different histories. So it's a different experience in itself. But we definitely have the option to travel to mainland and to experience that as well, since it's only like right up the street.
So I was looking at like a lot of your accomplishments. I didn't even know you did so much in your life. So you graduated from the University of Phoenix, right?
Yes,
Did you go there, or what was that like online?
online.
Okay.
I went in person to Catherine Gibbs, which was in like the Norristown area of Pennsylvania. But that school was about to close down, so I decided not to graduate from there and took like my last 10 credits and went to another school.
Okay.
And then when I got married, I decided to just transfer my credits to the Phoenix University, because I could do it online, anywhere, from anywhere.
Yeah. How many degrees do you got currently?
I just have I have two. So I have one from Catherine Gibbs and then one from University of Phoenix University.
Okay, cool. Cool. So I was reading something about editor-in-chief of Forbes magazine.
Yes.
Okay, so so what, explain that. What is that?
So Farbe, it means colors in German.
Hmm.
And so how it's pretty funny how I fell on that. Um, I was in like this like Black Power type group, Facebook group. I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
saying I mean Black Power, but like it's everything is about Black people in this group, like businesses supporting Black businesses, Black communities,
Yeah.
and I guess Vogue did this. Funny, I'm wearing a shirt. Vogue did this. Did this cover on Africa cover,
Right.
but actually spray painted European women to look Black to do the African cover. And so it was a bunch of people complaining about it, of course, like, oh my gosh, Vogue did this, Vogue did that. And then it was this one Black man that got on the thread and said, why are y'all mad about something that this company did that they can obviously do? Why not just instead of getting mad and talking about this company and talking about boycotting this company,
Hmm.
just come out with your own magazine? I was like, oh, you know what? That's a great idea. And so I got on that committee to do that, which, that narrow, it went from 1,000 people commenting on there to, around 15 people who actually joined the committee and said, yeah, let's come up with a magazine. And so everybody had an idea. And so I said, well, instead of everybody putting their ideas together, how about create an actual cover with
Yeah.
the name that you think, and then actually have the mission statement / concept behind it of why you chose this name. So we can have a visual with your idea, and it'll be an easier way to vote which one to go with. And I knew that would narrow down 15 people having ideas to maybe like 5 people who actually do it. And that's exactly what happened. And it turned out to be 3 people instead of 5. My idea was turned down. They went with something else. I wasn't really a fan of it, because to me, having an all Black magazine shouldn't just be about Black African Americans. And so my magazine is pretty much about Black people all over the globe, like people of color all over the globe.
So would you consider yourself Pan-African?
I don't know. No.
Okay. With the fashion thing that you got on, did you knew that you always wanted to get into fashion as a young girl?
Actually, no, that's not even the direction that I was even thinking about as a young girl.
It just came along one day, right?
It just came along one day. My degree is in business administration and marketing. So no.
But
It
you
just came along.
basically are doing that as well, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm utilizing my degree to the fullest.
Yeah. So being away in Japan, do it make you appreciate America more, like being away?
Not necessarily appreciate. Um, it makes me realize how privileged Americans are,
Hmm.
and how stupid some of the arguments and some of the fights that us as Americans do just makes absolutely no sense. Um, and so I think it's more so it makes me angry looking
Right.
at, like, to be an American sometimes, going and visiting the different cities and cultures. It just makes me angry and embarrassed to be an American sometimes, because it's senseless. You got people out here who has real problems, and we're still
Yeah.
fighting about color and mass and COVID
Yeah,
and
it's ridiculous.
who's the president. You voted for this person, I voted for this person, so now you're a demon and I hate you. It's like, come on, like,
What is it
we're supposed
like out there? Like, is it like okay, like we got Democratic and Republicans out here. What is the dynamic out there?
I haven't been out here long enough to really know all of that,
Yeah,
but from my understanding, it's not as intense as the
America.
America.
So in America, would you say you're more like on the left or the right?
um if I count my whole household, it would be more to the right.
That's a good thing. Yeah. Yeah, the left is all emotion. And it's I feel like the difference between like being a Democrat and a Republican in America, like Democrats, you're more dependent on the government, and then
Hmm.
being a Republican, you're more independent, which is a smaller government, which is what we should all fight for around the
A
world,
small government.
actually.
That is true.
So people out there, well, you haven't been out there long enough, but I was wondering, is people out there more like hard workers? You see more people working hard out there and less complaining?
Yeah, you do. You do. Just the little bit of time I have been out here, you do see more people working out here.
Hmm.
I'm not going to say less complaining, because I'm not totally proficient
Yeah.
at translations out here, so
You know,
I wouldn't know.
is it a lot of blacks out there?
It is actually, and it's more blacks than I expected that actually live on the island, like permanently,
Yeah.
not like just here for military.
Do
Um,
y'all get excited when y'all see each other?
yeah, we do actually. Well, we even have our own group out here
Yeah.
for Black people, and the
It's all of
Divine
them just
Line
like you
is out
trying to
there
escape.
too.
They are like, I want to go back to America.
No, actually, it's more Black people saying they want to stay here than they
Okay.
want to go back.
Yeah.
Um, so
America's a great place if you
it
got, especially if you got money. But that's anywhere in the
is.
world, right? Long as you got money, you could
Yeah, as long as
do
you got
well
money,
nowhere,
you're good.
anywhere.
Yeah.
So what do you think about like, did you hear about the so-called insurrection, the Capitol Hill here in DC?
I have not. I have not. Um, I mean, I know it happened at the Capitol.
Hmm.
I was in the States when that happened, but I
Yeah.
have not been keeping up on what they're doing. As far as I know, they started locking up a lot of people
Yeah.
involved and catching people, and
Right.
um, yeah.
It was a lot of people are saying that it was like white supremacists and it was racist and stuff like that. Like, but you don't really have no real opinion about the Capitol Hill situation, do you?
Um, I don't. The only thing I can say about the Capitol Hill thing is I don't really look at that as it was a bunch of like white supremacists, but I didn't see all the pictures and videos about it either. So I don't know
Yeah.
if it was like a bunch of people with like white hoods marching up to
It
the
don't pop up on your algorithm.
it does not.
You're lucky,
um,
I guess. You got a lot of
uh,
catching up to do.
I guess I do.
So you was in America prior to the Capitol Hill so-called insurrection. What about I don't know if you ever heard of this group. It's a racist Marxist terrorist organization we got here in America. It's called Black Lives Matter. You ever heard of them?
Yeah, I heard of them.
And they was burning down the country and destroying the cities for about 5 or 6 months straight. And certain places of the country, they actually took over, and the police wasn't allowed to do anything. They was told to stand down by their superiors. You heard about that?
I did. So I don't believe that. Let me say this. I believe that Black Lives Matter was created with good intentions. Um, and I believe that, like anything, it has been corrupted. And if it's not, but I do know also that a lot of the stuff that supposedly has Black Lives Matter name on it was indeed not Black Lives Matter. And because of and I do have inside information for a few different cities, just knowing police officers in different cities and knowing the people that they've locked up was not associated with Black Lives Matter, was actually associated with something else. But with that being said, with just that little bit of information that I have about all of the incidents that happen in Black Lives Matter, with the Black Lives Matter, I actually wrapped that up with the Capitol riot as well. Like I felt like the same people who made the Black Lives Matter movement the way it is, to make it look like it was just like a bunch of terrorists
But the
running
thing is,
around, did the same thing for the Capitol.
they're protecting the Black Lives Matter rioters, and they're going after all the white people that
And I don't think
did the
that's fair,
so-called insurrection.
because
Um,
there were a lot of businesses who don't have
mhm.
insurance or don't have enough money to actually rebuild their businesses that was burnt down during
Right.
those riots.
They burnt down
And
black businesses and they
they
didn't
burnt
care.
down
It
Black
was a lot of
businesses.
killing and stealing and robbing and raping throughout the whole Black Lives Matter 6 months, and
Yeah,
they and the government, the US government actually got behind Black Lives Matter. And one of Black Lives Matter slogans are pigs in a blanket, fry them up like bacon. You heard about that?
I actually have not.
Black Lives Matter is a horrible organization. It's part of the LGBTQ. You've been away from America for a while. You heard of LGBTQ, right? They're part of that, and they're part of taking masculinity out of the black home. So they don't want fathers in the house, and they want to normalize women and women raising children and men raising children. So they
Oh,
don't, and this is all part of Black Lives Matter, and they had a lot of this stuff up on their website, which they recently took down. And I don't know if you knew that, like the leaders of it is like 3 lesbian black women.
I did not know that. But I don't follow Black Lives Matter,
Good.
because I feel like I'm not the protesting type. I'm the
Right.
type that if we need change, make change. If we need,
Independent. Yeah.
things done in our community, then we need to be the change. Um, to me, protesting from city to city doesn't do anything but get you caught up in the foolishness.
Yeah.
But if we were going from community to community, building programs and teaching people
Yeah.
finances or how to save and how to create businesses, to me that's something I would definitely jump on board for.
Right.
But to me, even
It,
just the
it has
fact of
nothing to do with
protesting city
racism.
to city, it doesn't make sense to me.
It has nothing to do with racism. Black Lives Matter was built off of a lie that cops are hunting and killing down black people. And that's not true at all. More white people die at the hands of police every year. And they're saying that like cops hunt down and kill black men. Black Lives Matter don't care about black people. They don't care about black men unless they can profit off of your death of a black man.
Now, I don't fully agree with that. I do know that in certain cities and in certain areas, you do find that, I'm not going to say that cops are trained to track down black people and kill them, but in certain cities and certain areas, they are trained to racially profile. And it's not just for black people, it's just people of color in general, or people that's not associated with their community, which that in some instance makes sense. But because, if you see somebody new in your community, you definitely want somebody to be like, hold on, wait, this person ain't in our community. Like, why they, walking around looking at houses? But I do believe there's always a limit to things. You can be excessive with some things. And I think it has been excessive when it comes to racially profiling. So I do believe that there are some cases of excessive rates of profiling that ended in death. But do I believe that they are targeting black people per se? I don't think so. I think it's people of color just racially profiling, and then you have some that actually died in the process.
When you think of the inner city, right, the hood, the ghetto, we both live there.
Yeah.
So when you go outside of your door, are you more worried about a white supremacist cop or another black person that's going to try to harm you?
To be honest, neither, but
you always strapped anyway.
I'm just saying, but neither. Do I get nervous when I get pulled over? Yeah, I do. There has been, but a lot of my nervousness, and I can admit this now, especially now that I'm not in the States, but a lot of my nervousness of getting pulled over was because it was a long time. Well, if anybody watched, the Parking Authority, I forgot what the name of the TV show was from Philly.
I heard of it.
But yeah, like Philly is really, really, really bad for giving out unnecessary tickets. And in my younger years, I had a ton of tickets, had a ton of impoundments, and it was bad. I lost my license because all these court dates, I was missing work, and I was driving dirty. And so that was a lot of my nervousness as far as getting pulled over, because I wasn't trying to get my car taken again and sent to the impoundment and then had to pay $700 to get this car out.
So do you blame yourself for that, or do you blame the white man?
Myself. It was even a time where my mom flashed her lights because she saw my car. My car was very it was one and only. It was a one and only. And I saw all I saw was flashing lights. And I when I tell you I dodged my mom, went down the alley, parked, and start walking. And she could not find me, and then called me and was like, it was me. I was like, oh, you gotta announce yourself.
Right, yeah. So you got the hookup. That's black privilege right there.
Not necessarily privilege. She was playing when she, flashed her lights or whatever. She was just trying to scare me, but she definitely did scare me. And she
wow,
was like,
I would have been scared too.
Like, oh, okay, you can't be.
But the thing is, it's like, okay, so I don't understand. Like in the black community, like we're maybe not you, but the black community is like, oh, the cops are racist, white supremacy, this, white supremacy, that, and it's like basically ignored that black people are killing each other left and right over Jordans. You slept with my baby mom, all kinds of dumb stuff you get killed over in the inner city. And you could easily become a victim from Pookie and Ray Ray before you come a victim of like a cop. Like,
so my opinion on that is having an inside connect, because not only my mom is a police officer, but I do have a few cousins that are. There are some racist cops, just with them, working in the same environment with some of these people. There are some racist cops. And
but what does that mean, a racist cop? Like, what are they doing? even if they are racist, like what are they doing to hurt Black people?
So when you have someone that automatically comes in with a bias against a certain people, it makes it harder. It makes it harder for the person to do their job correctly. So
Let
instead
me
of
ask
looking at,
one second, not to cut you off.
Mhm.
Do you think they got a bias against the average man like me or your husband? Or do you think them white men got a bias against Pookie and Ray Ray?
I think it's everybody in general. Because until they know, because a lot of times what happens is, I know it just happened not too long ago. Because if you mentioned my husband who's in the military, they racially profiled somebody, an officer in the military, not too long ago, and I forgot what city it was,
I
but
think it was, I think I know what you're talking about. Was that Virginia, right?
I think so, yeah. So
The
I do
lieutenant who
believe,
didn't they tried to pull him over and
I forgot something
yeah.
like that, and I'm not exactly
No,
sure the
that
full
wasn't
story
racially
of that.
profiled.
I
If
wouldn't.
it's the situation I think you're talking about, I think it's Virginia where he was like driving down the road for like a mile or two and they was following him with their lights on and he was like looking for a safe place to park or whatever
Yeah,
at a gas station.
yeah,
They didn't even know who he was. Like they couldn't see the
yeah,
color.
yeah,
Sometimes
and
Black people think that everything is about them, and sometimes
no,
it's just not that way.
and I agree to that. I do agree to that, that everything is not always black and white. I do believe that the media is pushing this whole black white agenda,
Absolutely.
which is making us as Americans look extremely weak because we're fighting internally.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's given so much leeway to our real enemies, because we're so focused on fighting internally, all this stupid stuff that's happening, that we're not really focused on what's really happening. But again, yeah,
I meant to ask you earlier. So do you believe in God?
I do.
Are you Christian, Catholic, Muslim, or what?
Non-denomination Christian, non-denomination.
Okay, that's good. Where would you say you stand politically? Or did I already ask you that?
You said left or right.
Are you a Democrat or Republican? And when you're in the States?
So that's a good question. On paper, I am a Democrat.
I'm
And
sorry to hear that.
I think a lot of times, growing up, you just go with what, your parents or
Hmm.
family members, say to do. And I've done that for a long time. But I know I worked the polls last year? Yeah, last year for the major election that came up. And I learned a lot during that time that, I volunteered doing that. And I think that's something that at least I think everybody should attempt to do, just to get a better understanding of the system and
Yeah.
how it works, and just to be more comfortable. I'm not really that political. So I don't I didn't really pay attention to it, in all honesty. And I know that's probably a very bad thing. And that was
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I volunteered to work the polls last year, to just get a better understanding, meet new people, and to just get in that environment to just see how this all plays out, how this all works. But as a Democrat, I didn't have to vote Democrat, and that's for every
Yeah.
election. So you can vote for whoever you want to vote
You
for,
voted for
but
Trump, right?
I did not. But I did not vote for Joe Biden either.
Did you vote for Hillary Clinton?
Oh no,
You
no,
voted
I
for
did not.
Trump then?
I did.
Good. That's good. The I see the Democratic Party, especially now in America, they're trying to push like they're trying to push a victimhood mentality on Black people. And they're trying to create like a socialism, like communism, like country. And even if you look around the world, people that's in socialist and communist countries are trying to flee. However,
Mhm.
I think the Democrats got good sounding talking points. Like they sound like they're the good guys and they want to fix your problem. They're like, oh, Republicans are racist. We got to get the guns off the street. We got to go after gun manufacturers. We need, we believe that black people are oppressed and all of this stuff, like we understand that we have white privilege over black people and black people aren't as privileged as us. So we need to do a whole bunch of stuff for black people. And it sounds good because it's good talking points or whatever. And black people just kind of go along with it, right?
For the most part, a lot of my friends are actually Republicans.
That's good.
But and that's,
We
black,
need y'all
white,
to come back to America.
no matter what race you are, a lot of my friends are Republican. I
Yeah,
have a lot of black Republican
it
friends.
lines more up with the Bible.
Yes, exactly. And that is definitely a question.
The Democrats are kind of like everything's acceptable. Like you could be fat
Mhm.
and out of shape, and they'll say, "We gotta love you the way you are," instead of telling you the truth. Like, no, this causes diabetes, or
Yeah,
have as many
high
sex
blood
partners as
pressure.
you want, and it's okay. No man should judge you. You should be able to get a whole bunch of abortions if you want. And like, there's no accountability on the Democratic left side. It's kind of like be whoever you want. There's no consequence. And on the right, it's more like you are held accountable for your actions.
Hmm.
And that's how I see it. And that's the reason why I consider myself a black conservative. And
Yeah.
apparently I'm a traitor of the race.
Oh yeah, we all are. We
Yeah.
all are. One of the things I like to bring up is where America is known as the freedom, the freedom country, and it's
Yeah.
like we have the freedom to live the way we want to live. We have the freedom to love whoever we want to love,
Right.
or whatever, how you want to say it. We have the freedom to vote whatever we want to vote. We have the
Mhm.
freedom to even talk about, whoever we don't want to vote for.
Unless you're
It's
black.
all about, yeah. And so it's anybody now.
Right.
Um, so that is what we should be making sure that we go
Hmm.
back to, because right now we are in this cancel culture where it's like, if you didn't vote for who I voted for, now I'm not going to support your business. I'm not even going to support you. You're disconnected from the family. And it's
Hmm.
like, wow, like all because I voted for this person and not that person. Like, this is what America is about. Just because I don't agree with certain things that this person has and I agree more with what this person has, it should be about not the personality, not necessarily the personality of the person, but the values that the person has, and does what they support, does it line up with the values that I believe. And if this person has more that lines up with what I believe, then I'm going to go with this person, because I believe that this person will definitely, align with my beliefs and my values, versus this person, because there's
Hmm.
only 3 or 4 things on this list that lines up with what I believe and the values that I have as a person. And I believe that no matter who you vote for, we can still live together and not be like, oh, I hate you because you voted for this person. It's like, but this is
Hmm.
America. Like, that's what happens. Like, that's why we have the option to vote. If this wasn't America and we only had the choice to vote for one person, then I can see, oh, okay, damn, everybody who didn't vote for Joe Biden. It's like, but now it's like,
Well, a
it's
lot of black people are fooled by like identity politics and they want to vote for somebody that look like them.
that's it.
Um,
I like how you worded that. Look like them.
right.
Not
And
actually a part of that race.
right.
Looks like that.
So let me ask you, did you ever hear about critical race theory?
I have not. I might have, just if you
They're,
explain it a little bit more.
well, your husband is in the military. I don't know if he heard about it because I heard they're trying to push it in the military as well. but they're trying to push it into schools, the elementary schools as well. They're trying to basically start a program where they're going to teach white people that they're born with white privilege, and black people have less privilege than white people. I'm probably explaining it in a biased way, but that's pretty much what it
That's
is. It's
pretty much
like,
the gist of it.
yeah, like white people need to learn that they have white privilege.
Oh, I feel like I feel like that will probably bring us a few steps back, but
Yeah. Because
okay.
I always go off of the philosophy, if God is for you, what man could be against you?
Exactly. Like, um, I I feel like there's a lot of black people that we can name and pull up that definitely does not have that you know,
Well,
let
the
me just say
Democrats,
this.
they believe you're a victim just for being born black. And they're really the racists because they think that they're superior and they have rights that you don't have just for being white. And unfortunately, like a lot of like black leaders, like I don't know if you ever heard of like Dr. Umar and people like that, Louis Farrakhan and all of that. Like I used to be followers of them, and it sounds so good listening to it. Like, yeah, like you're right, Black Power, and then like you realize like when you look at the real history of the country, it's just not based off of that. It's based off of is if you, whoever make the less mistakes in life probably will live a better life, whether they're white or black. And it's
Um,
about circumstances. Is about if I don't believe in racism, but I do believe in classism. Like a poor white person is not going to have the same privileges as a
as a
black
rich,
middle
uh,
class person or a rich black person.
um, do I believe that there are certain things in place to hold the black man down? I do. When it comes to stuff like mortgages, things like that, there was certain things in place to make it harder for anybody of color to buy a house. Do I believe that now at this point in
Harder
time,
to buy a house
can
or
a black
what or like
person can a
area?
black person buy a house?
Yeah,
Yes, I do believe
yeah.
a black person can buy a house now. Will it take a little longer for a black person to buy a house? I believe right at this moment, right now, it depends on how much money you have.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I do believe there were things in place to hold black, black people and people of color in general down, and not necessarily down, but just kind of like, okay, well, we know you're not going to be making as much money as this person,
Hmm.
which still now it brings it back down to classification, because if you're looking at people of color are typically in the hood, they're not making that much. You're looking at white people are typically, well established, they're making, XYZ dollars. And so it was pretty much put in place like, okay, we already know you're going to be making this amount of money, you're not going to get approved for whatever. um, but do I believe that a white person on the same level as a black person did get approved faster than a black person? I do believe that. Do I believe that happens at this very moment? I think it just depends on the establishment. But I do also believe in that whole victim mentality, and that's
Hmm.
not something that I like to push to my children. I've been pushing to my children, you be the best that you can be, learn as much as you can learn, and then you can do and be whatever you want to be.
Based off
I
of the
think.
research I did, discrimination, even when you look through history,
Mhm.
a lot of business owners didn't really like discrimination because economically discrimination never made any sense. And I know
Yeah.
you heard about like Donald Trump is the big white racist man. Uh, so he like raised his apartments that he had, like he raised the pricing or whatever, and it just so happened that some black people couldn't afford it and some white people, and they was evicted or whatever because the area was going up in value, so economically it made sense to raise the
To
pricing.
raise the price. Yeah.
So
I'm a
they,
business person, so saying stuff like that is not. Yeah, I don't find that to
but
be
they, they're saying stuff
racist.
like that is racist. And then even back way back in the day, it was like it was Joe Biden and his friends and people like that was fighting so hard to keep everything under discrimination. And even like with the like busing companies back way back when doing the discrimination, economically they was losing money as well, because when the front of the bus is filled up, or the back of the bus is filled up, that's discriminating against white people and black people that could have paid, that could have had a seat. But because certain people wasn't allowed to sit in the back of the bus and certain people wasn't allowed to sit in the front of the bus, the companies was actually losing money. But it was actually the government that was actually pushing for discrimination, and it just economically it didn't make any sense.
Hmm.
If you understood what I was saying.
I understood what you were saying. You were
So
saying more so it wasn't the private businesses that was pushing
right,
racism, it was the government.
right, exactly. And I don't believe that America is a racist country. What do you think?
I don't believe America itself is a racist country. I think we have a lot of racist people in office. And I think that has a lot to do with how we vote. A lot of people just think the presidential election is the one that you need to pay attention to, but it's really all of them.
Your local elections
And
is what matter.
yeah, and when you have a bunch of people in office that, again, this goes back to, do your values line up with mine? Values don't line up with yours, then you're wondering why, why is so many black people getting incarcerated over, minor stuff, but then you have little Johnny over here who was clearly selling crack and making crack in his
Hmm.
basement, but got off with a slap on the wrist. And all has to do with who is your local officials, like what are they doing, and what are their beliefs. Now, I just made something up. I don't know if that really happened as
That
far as
happens
those,
all the time.
but yeah, like to me it doesn't have, to me it has everything to do with that local level, that state
Yeah.
level election. And I feel like a lot of us as people, we don't pay attention to those, and then we go around blaming everybody else except for actually saying,
Well,
hold on, let me do my research, let me educate myself,
black
let me
people are
figure out how I can
controlled.
make a change.
Black people are controlled by a magical word. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called racism. Long as you yell out the word racism, black people will do whatever you want. And white people are so afraid to be called the racist that they'll kind of just go along with it, even if they don't agree with it.
I can see that.
What do you think about like the LGBTQ plus movement?
I'm gonna do like the white people say, white people do with the word racism. I'm not gonna say anything on that topic, because that's another, I feel like that's another organization that is about that cancel culture if you do not follow exactly how they believe and
Have you
do.
ever heard about like trans story hours, where like people like Michelle Obama, who was the starter of it, sending trans men to elementary schools to read like pro transgender children books to kids?
I have not heard about that.
Yeah, that's pretty
But
sick.
my kids weren't in public school until we got here, so I don't.
Yeah, I don't think they're probably not woke out there, like that's considered the woke stuff. Um, what is your what is the gun rights like out there? Do you guys, are you guys allowed to carry, or?
Um, yeah. Um, I don't have one myself per se. But from my understanding,
You
yeah,
don't want to
like
say that out loud.
a lot of military families have weapons, and
Hmm.
so we are allowed to have our weapons. I'll just say that.
It's more free out. Like, would you say like gun rights
I'm saying
are
military across the board because every base is different, and then I'm talking about the US as well.
okay? When it comes to gun control, like I live in New Jersey, right? And
Hmm.
like New York, same thing, California, same thing, and Illinois is like you're not allowed to really carry a gun unless you're like a police officer or some kind of law enforcement. Like the regular person, like it's impossible to get a license to carry.
Oh, wow.
And it's like that just make it more easier for criminals to just have it their way, because they're not going to care about a permit or a 30-day waiting period or nothing. They're going to have their firearm no matter what. So are you like you're pro Second Amendment, right?
I believe yes, I will say that. Yes, I am. Do I believe you have people who abuse that? Yes, but you have that in every race. You have that in everything that you do. You always going to have somebody that
Hmm.
I can't even say it now. A bruise. I can't even
Abuse.
say it. Yeah, abuse the law in some way, shape, or form. And so I think having laws in place for people who abuse the law, that will help in that aspect. But to say because we of these bad apples, we're going to take it away for everybody, I think that just takes us a step back as Americans, because America is known for people carrying. And so
Do you think a civilian should be allowed to own an AR-15?
that's the automatic, correct?
Yeah.
um I'll say this. I think there should be maybe for automatics and guns with more power, it should require more a lengthier I guess registration process for you to even have something like that. So then it's a track of who all has it. It's a more detailed I guess
But I
registry
never
for that.
understood that, because them guns are so rare that they're ever used to do a crime. Handguns are the number one go-to.
It definitely is. It's more comfortable. Not everybody knows how to use automatics.
I always say, like if you see the movie
But it's also
Scarface,
because
you never know when
automatics is
somebody's
more.
gonna try to come get you like they got Scarface, right? I want something bigger than just a basic handgun. You ever thought about this stuff or not really?
um, I I have. But again, I grew up in a household where,
Hmm.
we had a gun closet, so
Yeah.
that was locked. So it wasn't something that, us as kids was, able to get to. Um, I think there should be better plans in place, classes, trainings for people who have
Magazine
guns.
capacity, like putting a band on like I don't know, anything over 10 round or 15 round magazine should be banned. Do you feel like that would stop or slow down crime?
No, crime is going to happen regardless.
I mean gun
No
violence,
matter.
sorry.
Um, gun violence. Um, guns is the easiest way to kill somebody. So do I think gun violence will slow down? In all honesty, I don't think so. People are going to find guns
Yeah.
regardless, just like, people are going to find guns regardless.
But they don't think that you should have magazines over like 15 or 20 rounds. They think that it should be like, limited down to like maybe 10 rounds or something like that. You think that
You
would be
saying that's
effective?
you saying that's what they're trying to do?
Yeah. Like in New Jersey where I live, you're not allowed to have a magazine more than 10 rounds, whether it's a handgun or AR-15.
I don't really think that matters. You can kill somebody with two bullets. So I
Yeah.
mean,
It's
I don't
stupid.
really I don't really think that matters. I think if anything, like I said, it should be a better way to uh, keep track of who has what. If
Hmm.
everybody was able to register and actually be put in a system, I think you'll have a better idea of who's doing what with what. and be able to narrow down where crime is happening and how to better deal with that versus trying to penalize everybody for the bad apples. But bringing up another thing you said, because you brought up black on black crime, I don't believe that's the thing. I am not a believer of black on black crime. I think that's something else that the media pushes because it doesn't make sense. There's white on white crime, but nobody's talking about, white on white crime. Nobody's talking about Asian on Asian crime
Well, now
here in Japan because it doesn't make sense. If you live in an area where that's all that's around, then that's what the crime is going to look like. The crime looks like whatever the area is. And so for people to bring up, oh, well, black people is killing black people. Okay, well, Lil Johnny just blew up the whole school full of white people, but we're not saying white on white crime with Lil Johnny, but now we want to say black on black crime because the crackhead from down the street that we all know just shot up the whole store. Like, I feel like every area, every country has crime, and the crime looks like whatever is in that area. You don't see anybody talking about Arab on Arab crime or Indian on Indian crime. Like, it doesn't make sense because the crime looks like the people that's in the area. So I am not a believer of black on black crime.
Right now, there's a culture war against a straight white Christian conservative man. And the reason why is because, like, you can't just simply disagree or victimize a black person if you're white. It has to be you're a white supremacist, you're a racist, or something like that. It can't just be a crime. Like, when white people do something to a black person illegally, it's considered like white supremacy and all of this stuff. Why can't it just be, okay, this white person did something wrong and we're going to take them to jail? It has to be a hate crime.
Just like any other crime, looking at the facts, looking at the evidence, did it spell hate crime, or was it just, I just went out here and killed somebody just because I'm a killer? Or I just went out here and did this just because I did it.
Did you ever hear about, is an unemployed drug addict that was killed by I guess he was killed or maybe he overdosed. Unemployed drug addict. His name was George Floyd. You ever heard of him?
Lord, the hell. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yes, I have.
Do you think that he's somebody that the black community should honor as a great hero?
Wow. I do not believe that we should be honoring the things that the choices that he made in his past. Do I respect that because I feel like he definitely could have overpowered that guy that was on his neck. I do believe that what was done to him did not have to be done that way, and it did not look great. The fact that they knew each other outside of this incident. So I think there was a lot of things that factored in on that particular incident, and the fact that even the paramedics was telling him, okay, like, you can release him. Like, I do feel like there are certain people who, and I'm not going to say this as a racist thing, because there were victims of his that were not just Black people. Talking about the officer in question, I do believe that some people go on power trips, and I think it was more of a power trip versus a racial thing. But even with that, I do believe that what happened to George Floyd shouldn't have happened, being as though I do understand he was a lot bigger than them. And so they was trying to make sure that, he wasn't, going to overpower them or, try to cause any issues. But as a police officer, there's other ways that could have been handled, and I've heard that from multiple police officers that weighed in on this situation and actually looked at all the facts and all the evidence. So I do believe that could have been a better turnout. But I do believe that there are officers out there with power trips.
It was two idiots that was dealing with each other. George Floyd was an idiot, and Derek Chauvin also was an idiot. I don't feel bad for Derek Chauvin. However, it was politically motivated, and that's why he got 22 and a half years. And they didn't want to see the country re-burnt down again after they're still recovering from prior incidents. So
I do believe that.
It was just like, I mean, the trial was completely unfair because the people in the jury was like had Black Lives Matter shirts on and everything, and
that
one of the guys had like a YouTube podcast where he was going in and the Black Lives Matter supporter and all of this crazy stuff. And on top of that, George Floyd was like practically ODing on drugs. He was going through like a major like panic attack because he swallowed a bunch of drugs before the cop approached the window, and he was panicking. Something clearly was wrong with him, right? And however, the cop should have knelt down on his life.
I do agree something was clearly wrong with him, which should have indicated that he wasn't one, not at his best. So it wasn't even him being that big, him overpowering them, to me wasn't something to, consider a threat. But then again, I'm not a police officer and I was not in that situation. And so I try not to put my what ifs and my opinions on situations I never have to deal with. And knowing police officers, I know there are situations where you see somebody and you're like, okay, well, let's try to control this situation, and then it goes south very, very quickly. So I do know that certain incidents, it can go south very quickly, and if you only catch the retaliation from the police officer and not what this person just did to go south, like this person just kicked my mom in the face, like you ain't catch that part. Like,
I always thought that we should teach our young Black boys to not resist arrest and not be so rebellious against the cops. And if they violate your rights, we'll beat them in court, because you got a greater chance of beating them in court than you do on the street. And I seen Pookie and Ray Ray, they had drugs, guns, all kinds of stuff, clearly in violation, rob a corner store, caught red-handed. And then they get right back out because it was some kind of technicality that the cops did wrong during the arrest, and they got freed.
That's true.
So
yeah, that's true.
You got a better chance of winning.
That is true.
Yeah. Don't try to beat these cops in the street. And in the Black community, I feel like the Black culture, we kind of push a rebellion against the cops, like, yeah, cops are racist and they shouldn't do this and they shouldn't do that. And, like, just comply. And
I definitely agree that we push this narrative in the community. I'm just gonna say in the community because we're not doing that in my household, but in the community, we definitely push that narrative. And rightfully so. You look at all the media, you look at what's being presented, and you are scared for your children and for yourself. But there are a few incidents that have been highlighted of, police officers, shooting first, asking questions later. But there are also stories of them doing that with other races. But of course, the media, focuses on, people of color to stir up this whole Black on white war that we're having within America, because that's exactly what it is. We are warring inside of ourselves. Like, we are warring in America with ourselves. And I think it's crazy because on the battlefield, you'll see, Black military people, white military people, Filipino military people, Asian military people, and they're working together on the battlefield. But then you come home and you get this foolishness, and it's like, we're all fighting for the same thing, freedom. And so why are we still fighting within ourselves about, the color of our skin right now, when it really shouldn't narrow down to that. And
right now,
I think it falls a lot on the media.
Right now, I told you there's a culture war against straight white Christian conservative men. Because here's the thing: black people kill each other all day, every day in the hood, and that's just normal. However, it get blamed on like the straight white conservative Christian man that's not even in control of the hood. Like, why do we blame like white people for the problems that's going on in the inner city?
Um, well, I have not heard that per se. That the problems of the hood is getting blamed on the white conservative man. I do believe that a lot of problems get blamed on the man, but not
Well, the white
necessarily
man in
like,
general, right?
yeah, the white man in general.
Especially the Christian, they really hate the Christian man if you white.
Well, I haven't experienced that,
Yeah.
but again, I'm not. I've been had my black card taken from me, so I don't. So I don't. So I don't know really if that's a thing. I haven't heard any of that come across
Yeah.
any of my circuits, so I haven't heard of that at
What
all.
do you? All right. Let's flip topics. Do you think black people in America today should be still angry and upset about slavery and entitled to reparations?
Um, did the
Choose your
Jews
next
did
words
the Jews
wisely, right?
did you hear me?
No, what did you say?
I said, did the Jews get it? Did the Jewish people get it?
I I believe that the country in Germany, I think they did give them something, if I'm not mistaken.
That would be my reason for that. That when I think of stuff like that, I compare it to the Holocaust, like, because we are not the only people that went through something
Hmm.
horrific. Um, and I do believe that America did downplay slavery as if it was just, well, slavery was just labor, free labor, and that's all it was. And now, Black people, you should be grateful now that you're able to, work and actually get paid for it. Like slavery was just free labor and that's what it was. No, America is actually known for having the most horrific slavery in the history of slavery. When it comes to like how they
You
treated
ever
their
read the Bible?
yeah, I have. So like I do believe that America does downplay um what has been done to the Black community of like killing off all of the ancestors, so things was not passed down to the younger generation, and killing babies, feeding them the gators. I learned a lot being down in the South for so long, and stuff that I didn't know, being in Philadelphia. I didn't know what gator bait was. I'm like, gator bait, like what in the world is that? Like,
I think I heard about that.
so yeah, so like there's some stuff that happened even down to the whole
So let me ask you, was slavery?
homosexuality was even pretty much introduced during slavery, where they would, have sex with the strongest man in front of everybody to make
Hmm.
him feel,
That's part
less
of
than.
like the Willie Lynch letter and stuff like that.
Yeah, so like stuff like that, it breaks my heart to, to even have to put that with, my history. But it also helps me to say, look, this happened. We have a chance to make this not happen again.
Hmm.
But not necessarily making myself a victim of it, if that makes sense.
Well, the thing about now, in your opinion, slavery, was it based off of racism or was it business?
I think it was a little bit of both, but majority business, because the war
Hmm.
was based on business. But I
George
think
Washington
also,
knew slavery would be demolished uh, you know, he set things up for them to be, and then Abraham Lincoln continued what George Washington started. However, they both owned slaves by default, um, you know, being a president or whatever the case was. But the thing is, slavery in America, it was like the George Soroses and the Donald Trumps of that time period that actually owned slaves. The average white person back then had nothing to do with slavery. And it's portrayed, especially in the movies like Roots, that white people went to Africa with a whole bunch of ships and started catching black people with a bunch of ropes and nets and chains and just captured them and took them back. And that never happened. It was like a slave trade. It was organized by other African countries and African tribes that already had African slaves, and then they sold them to the British man and the English man and stuff like that. And on top of that, African people in the 18th century, during the time there were slaves here, Africans actually owned Caucasian slaves in Northern Africa. So slavery was institutionally just normalized all around the world. And it's not just a unique thing to America, even though it's portrayed that way.
I said that. I do believe that America took it to the next level, is what I said.
I don't think the Caucasians got treated that well in Northern Africa that was under slave. And it was actually more of them than it was here. It was only 7 states in the United States that actually had slavery going on. Most African people in America was not slaves. It was the minority during that time period. Although it's portrayed as if it was all of us that was, everybody's ancestor was a slave. And on top of that, there was Black slave owners that had huge plantations. Should they also be entitled to pay reparations, their families, to Black people today?
That would be a good question.
You know, when I think about slavery,
I heard there was Native Americans who owned slaves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that was not good. But the thing is, if you study history, us being civilized is so recent. We've been civilized, what, for the last 150, maybe 200 years. Before that, it was mostly barbarians, pirates, attacking other countries, Vikings attacking other countries, raping, killing, stealing, and robbing. And we, like, as the world, we really only became like a civilized world within the last like 150, 200 years.
So what you're saying is it's not just America that's cleaning up,
everybody's guilty.
The world and the world as a whole.
And a Black man loved to brag about how they was the first man. Oh, we was God original people and this and that. Okay, I mean, we are the king of slavery if you actually study the Bible.
That is true. That's one of the reasons why I think our people went through what we went through.
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. Time goes so fast. So let me ask you, if you could pick your top 3 greatest people of all time, who would that be? Men or women?
Wow, top 3 greatest people of all times?
I would do 5, but that might take forever.
Oh,
don't say LeBron James.
I would not. Top 3 greatest people of all times. Okay, I'm gonna say Tyler Perry, Oprah, and my dad.
Oh, nice. That's a good one.
And so I say those 3 not because of their race. Well, no, I say those 3 not only because of their race. I look at them as people who had did not have did not have everything growing
Mhm.
up, did not get, the silver spoon in their mouth, but still was able to climb up to the top to be the best that they can be, as well as help others to be the best that they can be.
Right.
And to me, people who can do that outside of, I know Oprah is not the best, and I know Tyler Perry got some movies that not everybody like. My husband
Yeah.
does not like Tyler Perry movies because they always sing, but I like I still support, because I like the people who they became and who they became despite of what they were given.
I like all
And
of them
to
people.
me,
I don't. I'm not a fan of Oprah. I think she's
yeah,
horrible for the Black community because she pushes an agenda similar to like the Obamas, and it's more so like
I
pushing
love her
victimhood.
climb and her drive.
It's
I will
more of
say that.
pushing victimhood on Black people, and I don't like that about her.
I don't like that about her either. And I think that's something that came within like the last 6 years of
Hmm.
with her. That's why I said exactly what I said. I
Yeah.
like where they came from and
Right. Right.
how they grew despite of,
Well, if that's
and
the
how
case, I like LeBron James too.
and how they were able to
Yeah.
change their lives, as well as reach back to change others,
Right.
and not by making or telling them you're a victim, so you need to blame these people and then sue them in order to get your money and be rich. It was,
True.
hey, this is how I made it, this is what I did, and you can do it too. Now what they are doing now, I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not, again, I'm not a big fan of the whole victim thing, but how they became who they are today is what I'm more so impressed by.
Okay. Is there anything you wanted to ask me?
Um, yeah, how do you do this and not have a lot of hate mail?
Oh, I do. I do. I get called the coon, the Uncle Tom, all of that. Like, I'm just on a lot of my Black friends, they won't even come on my show because they just don't like what I talk about, period. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay.
because they don't understand that they're most of them are into this whole victimhood and the white man is the devil and all of this stuff, and they just don't want to move forward past that. And I think I did a good job explaining to you like the reason why I'm not upset about slavery, because when you really study the world history, it's just not what it's portrayed to be in America. We're not taught like the full context of a lot of things. Like in a Black community, like we're not taught the full context of slavery. We're misled about racism. We're misled about finances in the Black community. And until you actually look at this stuff yourself, because even with finance in a Black community, you're taught like, don't get a credit card. It's more rope to hang yourself and stuff like that. And then when you get older, you find out, no, that's a perfect way to build your credit.
Hmm.
So we're misled
It's
about a
just
lot
it's
of
just a
things.
matter it's just a matter of, if no matter what you get, if you're not a good steward over it, you're gonna always misuse it. And so
Right.
instead of telling the children, hey, don't get a credit card, it's, hey, this is a credit card and this is what you should be doing with it.
Hmm.
This is your allowance. Now you need to be a good steward over this. You need to have XYZ by the end of the year if you want to go to Disney. So how you want
Yeah,
to do this?
exactly. Well, when you was looking at my videos, like what was you thinking? Like, was you surprised? Like, wow, I can't believe he's saying this stuff.
I was a little surprised. I was just like, oh wow. I was like, oh my goodness. He asked me to be on this show. I
Yeah.
think he's about to ask me a whole bunch of stuff, and I just need
And
to
I did.
be prepared for
but
this.
but
But
you come off to be more of a conservative person anyway than
yeah,
liberal. So,
yeah,
like you said, they already took your Black card away.
yeah, yeah. That's why I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Cause I mean, I do believe that I already, if you follow me on social media and stuff, I already come off as that. I don't
Yeah.
really try to
I don't really see you post anything real political though.
I don't. And I stay away from it because I'm not proficient in it. So I try not to post anything I'm not
Well,
proficient in, because I know
we'll post
in this
this on your
industry.
channel so everybody can know how you think.
Well, on my
So,
team, pretty much everybody knows
right.
how I think and what I believe. But again, I don't think that should be the determining
Mhm.
factor of who you I guess your business. Because if you are making a difference, if you are helping other people, I think that should
Yeah,
be the learning factor, not,
right.
oh, she didn't vote for Joe Biden, so now I'm not going to her little stinking fashion show. It's like, okay, well,
Okay, and one more question before I let you go. You are moving back to the States, right?
eventually, yes.
Okay. Y'all already talked about it. As y'all coming. What state you moving back to?
Um, yeah, we pretty much already talked about it. It will most likely be the Carolinas.
Okay. Don't know if it's north or south, right?
Oh, definitely north.
Okay, North Carolina. Yeah, that's a good state. I gotta come visit you when you come back.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Maybe we'll do it in person with your husband.
But yeah.
Okay, so anyway, thanks for joining me. I'm gonna let you go. I think we covered everything that I wanted to talk about. I mean, we could have got in more detail, but that would take 5 hours. And it's early in the morning for you, ain't it?
Well, now it's 9:15 a.m. So yeah,
Wow,
Sunday.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's crazy that y'all a whole day ahead. That's something
Yep, a
else.
whole day ahead. Yep.
All
Oh
right.
yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me tonight. And
Thanks
I'm
for
gonna
having
talk to
me.
you later. Yeah,
All right.
I appreciate that.
All right. Bye.